Good morning, everybody. In the previous class of the software architecture, we studied the design decisions availability. Okay. In today's class, we are going to study about the interoperability, modifiability, performance, security. These are all about the characteristics of the software architecture. So today we are going to cover these four topics. Okay, interoperability. What is interoperability? It is telling about working with two or more systems which is going to exchange the informations among them. Okay, like quality attributes, this interoperability is not yes/no proposition. Okay, it is going to share the information. Meaningful information is going to be shared between two or three systems. Sample for interoperability scenario is vehicle information system is going to send the current location to the traffic monitoring system. Okay, there is a traffic monitoring system which is going to observe about all the vehicles which is running on the road. Okay, so while it is monitoring the vehicles which is running on the road has to send their location to that system. So it has to send the information to the traffic monitoring system. So this will combine this location with other information like Google Map, then it will be broadcasted. So the one who is going to run on the road could see the Google Map and identify it where the more traffic is. Through that he can choose the other road to go faster. Okay, this is called interoperability, which is going to share the information between two or three systems. Here the two or three systems, what are the two or three systems? Vehicle is one system, traffic monitoring system is the another system, and Google Map is the third system. Like that, these three systems are going to share their informations among them. Okay, this is called interoperability. What is the goal of this interoperability? By exchanging these kinds of informations, one can benefit on a particular information. Okay, so it can know about each other. So this exchange information should be the meaningful one. It should not send the information as it is. It has to be shared in a meaningful way. That means it is going to manage the interfaces. So what are the necessary information? What is the correct information should be shared among the systems. For example, if the car is going on a road, the particular road information should be shared with the Google Map, not all the informations. Okay, so this is called interoperability. Here you can look at the picture of the interoperability tactics. Tactics, I told you, that is, it is telling about the strategies or policies of this interoperability. Okay, so to do this particular process, what it has to do, it has to receive the information, then it has to control the interoperability tactics. Based on it, it has to produce the output. Okay, so here what are the two tactics are going to be followed? First one is the location and the second one is the managing the interfaces. Location means it has to identify the service which it has been received from the system. Based on the service, it has to identify the interface, and through that the output should be produced according to the request of the user. Here we are going to see the detailed information about interoperability tactics. First service is the locate. Locate means discover service. Discover service is going to identify the known directory service. There are multiple levels in location, like when we are requesting a particular path, that has to be located first. So that is only according to the search. Okay, that is called as discover service. Next one is the manage interfaces. When we are managing it, there are two different processes. One is orchestrate, that is going to be combined together or arranged together. Okay, it is a control mechanism to coordinate or manage the sequence of the invocation of the services. and this will be used when it is interacting with 2 or 3 complex tasks. Next one is the Taylor interface, which is going to add or remove the interface mechanisms. If it wants to be in buffering stage also, it can be, so that the data can be moved smoothly. So this is called as the manage interfaces. This is all about the interoperability tactics. Here we are going to see the checklist for interoperability. Already we have studied the responsibilities, allocation responsibilities, coordination model. Like that we have studied various checklist. According to that, the design checklist for interoperability has been given in this tabular column. You can go through it. That is, it has to determine what are all the responsibilities need to interoperate, and it has to ensure whether it is necessary or not necessary. Once it has been ensured, it can be allocated to that request. Then it can exchange the information. Once the information has been exchanged, it has to reject the request. So, according to that, it has to identify all the entities. This is called allocation. Coordination means when it is going to interact with each other, how it is going to coordinate. Volume of traffic on the network and timeless of the messages, concurrency of the messages. According to that, it has to identify the arrival time and the response time. Then this interoperability refers the ability of the systems which is going to exchange the informations. So what is interoperability? It is the ability of systems which is going to usefully exchange the informations. To achieve this interoperability, relevant systems which has to be located, and it has to manage among the interfaces, so that only they can exchange the informations. So with this, the interoperability notes has been over. Next one is the modifiability. Next characteristic is the modifiability. By the name itself, we can identify that it is telling about the change or the updations which is going to be done in the software. Okay, so modifiability is about the change, and our interest in it is in the cost cost and risk of making the changes. What is the change? According to the interest of the user, what will be the cost, and what are all the risks are involved in this modifiability. That is only telling about modifiability. So we have to consider these three kinds of questions when we are planning for modifiability. First, what is the change? Second one, how it how it will be. Okay. The third one will be when and who is going to change this. Okay. So these are all the questions has to be in the user's mind when they are going to change the code or something. Okay. Next one is the sample concrete modifiability scenario, which is telling about the developer would like to change the interface with some kind of code at the design time. These modifications will not have any side effects within the 3 hours. So how the portion of the scenario, what will be the possible values for each scenario has been given in the tabular column. For example, who is going to do this? The developer or the system administrator. The stimulus could be, it can be in the functionality or any attribute or the capacity or the technology. Artifacts can be either code or a data or interface. Environment, either it can be in the design time or a build time or the runtime. Response means it can do the changes in the modification of the code, or the test can be done on the modification. Response measure is nothing but how many lines are going to be changed. That should be measured in number, and the size and the complexity of those things has to be measured. This is called a response measure. So clear about this modifiability, which is telling about the change. Okay. Goal of modifiability tactics. That means the strategies. So what is the goal? It has to control the complexity of making the changes, as well as it has to reduce the time and cost of the making changes. Okay, that is in the given in the picture. Modifiability tactics are all in the 4 categories. Either it can be reduce the size of the code, it can increase the cohesion, or it could have been reduce the coupling, or it can defer the binding. Okay, each one we will see in detail in the remaining slides. Reduce the size of a module. How can you reduce the size of the module? It can be splitted into 2 or 3 modules. That is only split module, which is telling about the capability and modification cost will be little bit high, but it will be refined into several small modules so that the cost of future changes will be reduced. Next one is the increased cohesion. Increased cohesion is telling about the semantic coherence. That is, if there are two responsibilities A and B in the module which do not serve the same purpose, they could be replaced in different modules. It is not necessary in the same module. It can be replaced. Okay, so this is called as increased semantic coherence. Next, differ binding. It is telling about the life cycle which is going to be bind together as a single data. Okay, so with built-in flexibility, it can usually cheaper than the hard coding or a specific change. Next, these mechanisms will facilitate that late binding so that it will be more expensive. Reduce coupling. First one is the encapsulate. Encapsulate means combining together, that means data and functions will be combined together as a single module. So this will say that it will be like a syntactic transformation and output parameter to a internal representation, which is telling about it has been combined together as a single module, so associated responsibilities of this will be reduced. Next one is an use an intermediary, that is, it is having the dependency between A and B, so that the dependency can be broken using the intermediary. That means it is going to be separated as 2 different modules, so that should be the intermediator to exchange the information between these 2 modules. Next one is the restrict dependencies, which is going to increase the number of conditions to interact with the other module. Refactor, which is undertaking 2 modules which are affected by the same change and it can duplicate with each other. Next one is the abstract common services. So when the 2 modules provide, it will not be same like similar services. So it may be cost effective to implement this service just once and more general form. Okay, so these are all the factors of the reduced coupling. Next we are going to summarize this modifiability. That means it is going to deal with the change and cost and time or money of making the change, including the extent to which the modification affects the functions or quality attributes. So this tactics will reduce the cost of making the change. Either it can be smaller, or it can increase the cohesion, or it can reduce the coupling. Defer binding will also reduce the cost of making the changes. So with this, the modifiability gets over. The remaining performance and security will see in the next.